Hey guys, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I am a transformational spiritual life coach, and it's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. With that, I want to lead by example, and in this video, I'm going to share something that I've been going through the last couple of weeks. Now, I've talked about self-care on this channel before, and I will talk about it again in the future. Why? Because it is so necessary. It is not a luxury that we have. It is a necessity and a need that we have to do in order to keep on living, in order to keep our head above anxiety, in order to keep our head above depression. Before things get out of control or as things start to slip, we see the warning signs. When you start to choose foods that you know aren't good for your body. When you don't work out on that day, you don't go for a walk, or you don't do something that you know is good for your body. Now, it's okay to have rest days. Of course, you know that's not what I'm saying. But I'm talking about when that day turns into a week, and that week turns into a month, and that month turns into a couple months. These are the red flags that we know within ourselves. When we start to decline every offer to go do things with friends or family, when the only thing you feel like you can do is to sit on your couch and watch TV and veg out, or lay in your bed and play on your phone or sleep. These are signs that our body and our mental health is telling us and showing us the road that we're headed. And when I tell you I want to lead by example, that means sharing my struggles with you too. One of the things that I had to ask myself is, how many times do you give of yourself at work and give of yourself the moment that you step through those doors when you get home, and the kids are wanting things, and the pets are wanting attention, and your spouse is wanting to just talk to you? These things, they're not bad. This is life. This is beautiful. This is wonderful. This is love. When you go to work and you're needed and you're appreciated and people come and talk to you because they know they can and they know it's a safe environment, those things are beautiful and they're wonderful. So none of these things in and of themselves are bad, and none of these things need to be cut off. But when we don't take care of ourselves and we don't cut out time specifically for us to recharge, so that we maintain to be a fountain and not a bucket that needs to be filled, that continues to be emptied. When we're a fountain, we're self-sustaining. We don't run dry. But when we just have a cup or a bucket, so to speak, and you're giving in, you're giving and you're giving, you need to refill, and you go empty. And then when you go empty, then the people aren't getting what they need from you either. And then you feel worse about yourself. And then it goes deeper and deeper and turns into depression and anxiety and things like that that steal your joy and take you down a dark hole. So how do we become fountains? We become fountains by making self-care a priority, a non-negotiable priority. And I'm going to try not to cry in this video, because this is where I am at myself. I am doing better with self-care now than I've ever done in my life, and I am proud to say that. But there is still much growth and much room for improvement. So this morning, as I was thinking about, why do I allow myself to run dry? Why do I hold all of these needs of other people inside of me? Why can I not be there for people and then let it go? Why am I holding on to their needs, their wants? When you're a parent, it's much more difficult to set down the needs of your child. I don't know that you can, to be honest. But for other people, again, it's empowering them and understanding that you can be there for them, but seeing the wholeness that's already within them. And I do this with my children as well, but what I'm talking about is when they're still small and they still need you for survival. As they get older, it's the same thing as with other people. You empower them by knowing who they are and trusting that you've taught them how to stand on their own 2 feet. Believing in the true self that they are, how capable they are, how creative and resourceful and whole that they are, and reminding them of this. So why am I missing that part sometimes? It's not all the time, but it's enough to weigh me down. And I realized that I have a need, or I have a desire to be wanted and needed. I asked myself this morning when I realized that, and I was thinking about it, what is it that I get from being wanted and needed? It feels good to be wanted and needed. I feel valuable when I'm wanted and needed. I feel like I'm a good employee when I am giving everything that I have. I feel like I am a good manager when I'm there for other people and I have their back and they have mine, and we're a team that relies on each other, and I listen to what's going on with them. I feel like I am a good person and I'm proud of myself, and I'm happy that people know that they're safe and they can come and talk to me. It makes me feel like a good mother when my kids are willing to talk about their days and talk about their struggles, talk about their confusions, and talk through their anger. It makes me feel like a good wife to hear how my husband's day went and to talk to him about his dreams and his goals. It makes me feel like a good pet parent when the animals are all over my lap and they all want attention, they all want to be pet. These things, they make me feel good about myself. So then I asked myself, well, who am I without that? And I envisioned myself with nobody needing me, nobody wanting me. When I come through the door, I'm not bombarded with hugs and here's this about my day, here's this about my day, here's this about my day. When I walk through the door, when I get home, there's not a dog wagging its tail, there's not cats on my legs. When I go to work, I still do a good job, but I'm not needed. I'm not getting calls. People aren't coming into my office and talking to me. Who am I if I'm not needed? And I realized that that was a really sad thought for me, to not be needed, to not be wanted. And it doesn't mean people don't care. It literally means that they're self-sufficient enough that they don't need me. And isn't that ultimately what I want? But in that moment, I realized, who am I when I'm not needed or wanted? And I realized that I had to ask myself this question several times, because the answers that I kept getting weren't, I just knew that there was something lacking. So I kept asking myself, I kept envisioning me around self-sufficient people who don't need me, who still love me, but they don't need me. And how that made me feel. And I kept going and I kept going until I could find the word to isolate the emotion that I felt to be not needed or wanted. And I realized, I'm not gonna cry, I realized that I was mistaking not being needed for being worthless. I felt that if I wasn't needed at work, then it was almost like I wasn't worthy of my paycheck. If I'm not needed or wanted emotionally for people who come into my work, who come into my office and talk to me, then I am not creating the environment and culture that our gym is. if I'm at home and my children are self-sufficient and I'm not needed or wanted, then what do I bring to the table? And I realized that there's a wound there that goes deeper. And it's up to me to figure out where that is coming from. Why? So now I was able to identify, why do I feel like I need to be needed and wanted? And now I can correct that wrong belief, that wrong idea. I know I have value. I know I am loved. And I know I am worthy of life and living and enjoying life. And I haven't been. I've still been in this survival mode because I've been afraid of being worthless. So now that I know that, I can correct that. But I know in order to truly heal that, I can correct that belief system, I can correct that idea, but I need to heal where that stemmed from. So I need to go back still and ask myself the same questions. All right, so now I know that I needed to feel needed and wanted, because if nobody needed or wanted me, I felt that I would be worthless. So where does that come from? That comes from how I saw myself in my first marriage. That comes from feeling alone in middle school and elementary school. That comes from not feeling like I had a voice when I was very young and my parents got divorced. I can identify these things. I know they're there. And this is where the real magic comes in. And I'm sitting here recording this, and I literally had this conversation with myself this morning. So I don't want to give you a misrepresentation for the journey of healing. Yes, people can heal in a day, but it is very intense. Most of the time it's going to take weeks or months and sometimes even years. And that's okay, because you don't want to rush this process or this journey. Knowing where it's coming from, it can be a shock sometimes. It can shock your system. And my next video is actually going to be about one of these system shocking revelations. But it's okay when you have those and you realize the information and you're like, what do I even do with this? How do I even begin to heal this? Because recognizing where it comes from, when I was asking myself those questions and really trying to put a word to that emotion to help me figure out why, knowing the why really is the first part. It's so empowering. Even if you don't feel any power in it yet, you will. Because knowing that now breaks it open, brings it to the surface so you can become aware of it. When we have subconscious beliefs about ourselves that are hidden and they're buried, how can we even possibly begin to change those behaviors, change those beliefs, and change how we feel about ourselves if we don't even recognize that they're there? It's impossible. You cannot change something that you don't know exists. So as hard as it is, understanding where things come from, treat that as a celebration, because that is the first step in the process of healing. The next step is really just sitting with it and allowing it to be. Can you allow your thoughts about yourself to be? Can you not fight it for just, at least even just a few moments? For me, it's accepting that that's a part of me. Accepting that ultimately I am a people pleaser. I don't have to be forever, but this is a part of me that's here. And by denying it and rejecting it, I'm only creating more suffering and resistance for myself. It's not going to go away just because I pretend that it's not there. I'm going to continue to suffer. And I don't take care of myself, everybody else is going to end up suffering as well. But how can I even begin a self-care regimen? How can I even begin a self-care process when I'm unable to get through the reason that I'm struggling with this to begin with. So it goes hand in hand. It's not just about self-care, self-care, self-care. Because when we make self-care a priority, it's different than making self-care a task or a chore. Because self-care as a chore is not enjoyable. Self-care as a chore is going to give us one more item to check off a list. And if we don't check it off the list, then we're going to make ourselves feel guilty. And that's not what self-care is. Self-care should be natural. Self-care should be enjoyment. Self-care should be you experiencing your joy. So how can I even begin to create this routine of self-care for myself when I'm blocking myself because I'm literally wanting the very thing that's keeping me from creating a routine? So this is where the patience comes in. Yes, I know I need self-care, and I will do little things along the way as I'm able to. I will make that commitment to myself as I'm in the process of healing. But I also understand that I'm not going to flip a switch. I'm not going to have a New Year's resolution and all of a sudden my life is going to change. I am going to have to work at this. Habits take time. Healing takes time. And it might take a week, it might take a month, it might take a few months, it might take a year. But it's progress. So it's really being patient with yourself, being gracious with yourself, and allowing yourself to accept that part of you so that you can process through it. So what this means for me specifically for this is that initially, when I realized it, I experienced frustration because these are things I thought I'd healed from in the past. And I'm now under the understanding that, number one, it's always going to be a lifelong journey, always. Number two, you do heal things as they come up, and things can be multiple steps to it. There could be part of the same situation that I'm not ready to deal with yet, but I can heal this top part of it. Then, once I've fully healed that and released it, years later, now another part of that same situation has come up and been brought to my attention when I'm now mentally and emotionally ready to handle the trauma associated with that. So be gracious with yourself. And again, I'm speaking from experience here. When I realized that, I was frustrated with myself because it's like, here we go again. I'm now going through the same things I've gone through time and time again. I've healed these things. I thought I healed these things, but I'm recognizing that it's a part of this that I need to heal now deeper, that I get to be more thorough in my healing now than I ever have been before. I might have come back to these same 3 situations and healed them 20 times. But guess what? Now I get to 21. Then I'll get to 22, 23, however many steps are left until one day this situation will be released within me, will be fully healed. As long as I continue to be open to healing each aspect of these situations when they come up. If you judge them in the moment, it's so easy to say don't judge them. If you judge them in the moment, just know that that's natural. We hope to be fully healed, and it's frustrating when you've done so much work and something still comes up. But once you've calmed down and you've accepted it, then you can release the resistance and release the judgment, and then continue to go into it and heal it and see what's left of healing it. And the deeper the trauma, the deeper it goes. It's amazing, because you would think that more that's there, the harder it is. Like the really scary stuff is what's buried deep. No, it's the stuff that's buried deep that is really complex because it's so subtle. Do you understand? The big scary stuff, that's actually on top. When we start to address issues, the worst of it is when we just acknowledge that it's there. because we already know the scary parts of it, because that's why we've buried it. So it's frustrating in a way when you're going back to the same issue that you've healed time and time again, and you're like, oh my gosh, well, what is left? Understand that it's actually going to get easier and easier every time you revisit it, and it'll be faster and faster every time you revisit it. Now, I am confident it's not going to take me a year to heal what's in front of me right now. It will probably take me, I'm going to say, probably a month or so, knowing that how intertwined it is with other things. But if I look at each thing, it'll probably take about a week or so for each individual thing, if you wanted a just kind of estimated timeline for healing. So it is frustrating, but it is also okay. And to understand, literally, the deeper it is, the less scary it is, and the faster you're able to process through it, because it really is. It's more subtle things that are being hidden, that are more in your subconscious, that you don't even realize are there, that are influencing the way that you react to the world, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you perceive others. And we get the ability to change that, to not be held hostage to these things anymore. And it really is an amazing thing. So for me personally, I know that as I continue to address this and as I continue to heal this, then it will unlock within me the desire for self-care. But in the meantime, I will do my part, and I will do little things as I'm able to for self-care. Part of that for me personally is making this video, being vulnerable and honest, and sharing it with you guys. I could do so many things about this video and critique myself and say, oh, the lighting's not right, the audio's not right, I could have put on more makeup, I could have done this, I could have done that, my hair's not like I want it to be. But when we start to judge our self-care, it ceases to become self-care. When I do the little things to start the process, as I'm removing the obstacles that are keeping me from self-care, I still will do my part to do things for self-care. Whether it's go for a walk, whether it's paint something, whether it's take a shower. Each moment that I have for myself, if I'm able to do it, then that will be wonderful, and I will appreciate the moments as I'm experiencing them. And if I'm not able to get to something that I intended to, I will not judge myself. I will not hold myself hostage to criticism and beating myself up about how I coulda, shoulda, woulda. I'm allowing myself to do what I can, and understanding that the more that I do that, the more I do my part, I am building habits, I'm also healing, and it will come together. This is something that is never going to stop. Every single day we breathe air. Every single day we need sleep. Every single day we need to eat. Every single day we need to go to the bathroom. It doesn't matter if we want these things to stop. This is life, and those are the basics of what we experience in life. So don't look at this as, oh, well, I'm never going to be fully healed, or I'm never going to be the person that I want to be, or I'll never have the body that I want to have because it's not attainable. I'm always going to have to work for it. There are certain things about living that you have to do every day. But when you include it in self-care, and really truly self-care and not self-care as a chore, do you hate that you have to eat? Do you hate that you have to sleep? Does it annoy you that you have to breathe? Then this too will become so natural and so easy that you won't resist it anymore. Comment below, what are some of your favorite things for self-care? And do you struggle with self-care, or have you ever struggled with self-care? I know this was a slightly longer video, but I appreciate you guys being here with me. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you for sharing this channel with other people. If you're new and this resonated with you, please feel free to hit the subscribe button so you can join our community. Share this video with somebody who you think needs to hear these words as well. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time.